Welcome to the 4Q podcast. My name is Sheena Shui. I have a Bachelor of Psychology, Masters of Counselling, and Masters of Social Work. My aim is to normalise rather than pathologise life. And in this podcast, we talk all things therapy, women's mental health, leadership, and business. So if you're ready to learn some tips, tricks, and hear some amazing stories to really amplify your life and your business, let's get into it. Welcome again to the 4Q podcast. Hello, beautiful human, beautiful soul. I'm so happy to have you here, and I'm so happy that you've made this ritual of coming back, having a listen, being part of our movement. I'm so happy that you're here and making time for today. So today is about how to feel more calm, clear, and content with less burnout. And the answer is, drum roll, is sitting with uncomfortable emotions. Now, you might go, what has that got to do with feeling calm, clear, and content? You need to learn how to sit with the discomfort of not doing, of delegating tasks. And let's break that down a little bit. So, most of us know that we've got way too much on our plate. Like, we know that. Logically, we know that. We experience the burnout and the fatigue from that. But not that many of us actually go, well, how can I change that? What do I need to change myself so I can change that? Because don't get me wrong, I want to make it very clear that, like the world, we are the least supported generation ever. If you in the Western world, if you're a working mum, if you're just a woman doing her career, there was once upon a time where you had, if you needed to go on a holiday, your neighbours would take care of the dogs. If you, were sick, you had friends come over, family come over, neighbours come over, like the community was there for you. If you needed things done, like there was shared obligations around, you'd have grandparents or cousins living next door or in the same house who would help with the cooking, help with the cleaning, help with paying the bills and the finances. Now, for most of us, that sounds like a nightmare. I know I wouldn't want to live with my relatives now, but when you grow up like that, you don't know any different, and that works out really well. So it is really hard to go back to that. However, so I guess my point here is that I understand that societally things have shifted and we're so not supported. So that is going to have an impact. And so I just don't want to ever make you feel like I'm diminishing that, because I think sometimes I'm finding when I'm creating content on TikTok particularly, people are like, how can you rest when you work 80 hours a week? How can you rest when you're a single mum? And my point in this podcast and in those videos is about when I say rest, and we all know we need to rest to recover from burnout, but when I'm talking about rest, I'm not saying take a holiday because you need money coming in. I get that. I'm not saying take time off or, sleep all day either. We've got kids. We can't sleep all day. What I'm talking about is, the first part of this is sitting with the discomfort of saying no to others and a whole bunch of other things. But then, it's also around choosing joyful moments. So we'll get into that. So let's get into the first part, which is sitting with the discomfort of uncomfortable emotions. When you first start setting boundaries with yourself and others so that you don't burn out, you're going to feel uncomfortable, particularly if you have people-pleasing tendencies, if you're worried constantly about being liked or how people perceive you, if you've created a role for yourself where people actually depend on you. So it's interesting that in workplaces, it's the high achieving employees who end up with all the work, because people know that they're good at their job and go, oh, well, you can handle a bit more, you can handle a bit more, you can handle a bit more. And it ends up becoming their role. So they played a part in it, and then other people play a part in it. So when that person turns around and goes, actually, I'm just going to do the same amount of work as everybody else, so thank you for that, that can feel abrupt on both ends. The person saying, actually, I'm actually just going to set some boundaries here, and my workload is going to be the same as everyone else. That is a perfectly reasonable request. But if you're the person where they've always relied on you to do a bit extra so they don't have to hire someone else, or they can take some workload off other people who are a little bit burnt out more than you, then that's abrupt on their end, because we go, oh no, she's actually setting boundaries for herself. And this is not beneficial to us. So remember, the only people who react negatively to your boundaries are the ones that benefited from you not having them. Just remember that. It's the boss who all of a sudden can't rely on you to take on all the extra work that you shouldn't even be doing. It's the mother-in-law who relies on you to do all this extra housework for her or all these things for her, when that's not your role. So it's perfectly okay to set those boundaries. But the thing is that if you're that people pleaser and you find that difficult, setting boundaries is new to you, it's going to trigger off some things, and it's going to trigger off your discomfort. Oh my gosh, do they hate me? Am I a terrible person? Did I go too far with this? Oh, maybe I shouldn't have set that boundary. Do they think I'm going to be harsh? Am I a bitch? Oh my gosh, all of that is no. But that's the work that we do together when we work in the therapeutic and coaching space. Is I've got to teach you what you're feeling, how you're feeling it, why you're feeling it, and how you can sit with it and move through it, so that in 10 times from now, in 10 sort of scenarios where you've set boundaries, that uncomfortable feeling isn't going to be as strong. Is it going to be there still? Yeah. But is it going to last as long? No. Is it going to be as intense? No, because you've given yourself exposure to it and it fades over time, because your brain now learns that it's safe to set boundaries. It's safe to change your relationship with people. So that's part of the work. The other part is you saying no to yourself. I am an entrepreneur as well. I have 2 businesses, 2 dogs, 2 kids, 2 masters. You know, you kind of get the gist. I'm a bit of a high achiever, right? So I too absolutely relate to this, but it's the setting boundaries for yourself, because if you're like me, I love what I do. I'm really, really grateful that I took the jump. I took a leap on myself. I took faith in myself that, you know what? I've had every job I've ever wanted, and none of them comes close to how passionate I am for working for myself and doing my own thing and creating this movement with you, the listener. You here right now. I'm so happy you're here. That lights me up. It makes me passionate. I could work on this all day, every day. If I had no kids, no dog, no house, like all those things, I could 100% work on this for 60, 70, 80 hours a week. That would feel, crazy to me, but I'm going to burn out doing that, even though it's something that I love. Because the thing is that all of us need balance. And it's wired into our DNA. Our DNA, the cells in our body, want us to connect with other human beings on a face-to-face level. So not just through a computer screen, not just through Zoom. It want us interacting. Our cells Our brain interacts differently and moves differently when we're in human being settings. So when we're at a coffee shop, when we're seeing a friend, when we're seeing family, when we're, out at a park, even when we're going for a walk in like a public area where it might be a busy park and we're by ourselves, even that stimulates things in our brain. Connecting even through Zoom sometimes too is okay as well. That's like the next best thing. It's like really connecting through that space, because many of you will connect with me there. I create that therapeutic space in that moment where I'm with you, you're with me. I can see your hand gestures, your movements, all of that is super important. The other thing our DNA is wired for is being out in nature. It's movement every single day. And it doesn't have to be high intensity movement, but it is movement. And, that tribal nature that is wired into us, right? Like dogs are pack animals. And what happens to dogs when they're left alone for long periods of time? They get rashes, they start licking themselves, they start exhibiting severe behavior, they get anxiety. There's anti-anxiety medication for dogs now, right? When you take a pack animal out of a pack environment, out of its natural environment, it's going to exhibit symptoms similar to mental health, similar to dysregulation, similar to burnout. So it's setting boundaries with yourself about, I'm not going to check my phone or my social media for the first hour of the day. That can be really tricky at the beginning. It can say, I'm going to finish work at 4. I'm going to take my lunch break. That can be a big one, because you're like, oh man, I'm on a roll. Like, I want to keep going. I want to keep pushing. I want to keep creating. I've got this vibe. Don't get me wrong. There's time and place to listen to that, but it's making sure you have a break. It's making sure you take some lunch breaks. It's making sure you get some movement every day, because could you can go for a 1 hour walk, or you can, create some social media posts, or you can reach out to a contact or reply to emails. Like, there will always be something. So you've got to sit with the discomfort of holding yourself accountable. And I find for me, and for a lot of the clients I work with, is that I run my life off my calendar. So if it's in the calendar, it's not moving. So I would really encourage you to do things like in your calendar every single day, your work calendar, if you work for yourself or even if you work for someone else, putting in there, text a friend, leave a voice message for a friend, go for a walk outside without my phone, take a lunch break, have a coffee or whatever it is, because, having those moments in the day where if I'm having a break and I go, I'm just going to go have a coffee and sit outside for a moment. If I can do that without my phone and without distraction, I make the coffee, I'm really mindful about it, I'm sitting outside, I'm noticing the sounds and the trees and what I can see and my senses, that regulates the nervous system so much, because your thoughts affect your nervous system. Your feelings affect your nervous system. Your nervous system runs through your whole body and is there to protect you. And if you're thinking, oh my God, this, oh my God, that, oh my God, that, it tells your nervous system, we're in danger. We need to be heightened. Let's be anxious. Let's be hypervigilant. And being anxious and hypervigilant for long periods of time leads to burnout. So that's why these little mindful moments where if you can make that coffee, sit outside, engage your senses, and calm yourself a little bit, that can be really good, really helpful. So let's say before that coffee break, you were at 8 out of 10, like super dysregulated, or tea break or water break, whatever you want to be. And if you go sit outside and you do all that, if that gets you just 1 point down, 7 out of 10 for how heightened you are, again, another point down, 6 out of 10. that can make a huge impact about what you're like at the end of the day when you're with your husband, or maybe you're with your kids, or it's that busy time of dinner and bath times and all of that. Sometimes that one little point down, or those 2 points down, can make a huge difference between if you reach your breaking point, that 10 out of 10 at the end of the day, or not, that burnout point. So it's doing that, but it's also sitting uncomfortably with the emotions of, oh, I'm sitting outside. Oh, this is really boring. I don't know if I really like sitting with my thoughts. Oh, I don't like my thoughts. Oh, I'm not supposed to be thinking. I'm supposed to be mindful. Oh, I'm really suck at mindful. Like, your mind can wander. So when I work with you, part of our job is, let's sit with the uncomfortable thought. And we're going to learn to process that emotion in our body. And we're going to learn to sit with it and come back and focus and come back to the present moment. Because that's where love and joy and happiness and contentment and calm live. Because the other thing that is really important about this, that you need to understand if you want to live a calm, clear, and content life, is that it lives in the present moment. So when we're not present to the present moment, when we're constantly thinking about the to-do list, this thing, that thing, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got to prepare for this. Don't get me wrong, that's part of life. We need to do that to some degree. But when we do that all day, every day, we're not making memories, because you need your attentional focus to remember things. You need to be in the present moment to remember things. So that's why people go, oh, it feels like the last 10 years were a blur, or it feels like it went so fast, or I feel like I really didn't live for the last 10 years. That's because they didn't make the time to be present. So do you really want to lose your life not being present because you don't want to deal with the hard part of sitting with uncomfortable emotions? Because when we work together, we'll work on that. And, finding your tribe of people who are working on that too, that's really important, right? Like, I love catching up with my friends who don't have their phone on the table when we catch up. Like those friends who just leave their phone in their bag. I love that because they're choosing me and that moment. And I'm choosing me in that moment. And don't get me wrong, if one of us gets a phone call, we'll take it because, it could be an emergency or something. But the intention by leaving it in our bags and not putting it on the table is, I'm here and I'm with you and I'm enjoying this moment and I made time for it. Could I be working on my social media strategy? Yes. Could I be replying to emails? Yes. Could I be working out? Yes. Like, there's always going to be something. So you have to intentionally choose. And then the other thing that can be uncomfortable is when you intentionally choose and it's shit. So sometimes if you intentionally choose to set a boundary and go, you know what? I'm going to make sure I choose me and I'm going to go shopping or I'm going to go for a workout, and it turns out not to be fun. Like, maybe you went shopping and you didn't find anything that you wanted or needed. Or maybe you went for a workout and you hurt yourself, or you didn't enjoy it, or you couldn't push. Like, for some reason, it just wasn't a day that you could, mentally push through. You might end up going, man, why did I do this? I could have worked on this thing that I'd been wanting to work on anyway. So again, sitting with that uncomfortable emotion of that, and that mindset shift of, I'm proud of myself for trying anyway. That, because when you're trying new things, you're going to have hits and misses. So whenever we do a new strategy together, you're going to have hits and misses. Just like when you go to a restaurant and you're like, you know what, I'm going to try something new. Sometimes it works out and you go, whoa, this is my new favorite food. And then there's other times where you go, well, that was awful. Should have gone the chicken palmy. You know, you can't go wrong with the chicken palmy, right? so it's that. So it's sitting with the discomfort of that. So again, just summarizing that part of it is sitting with the discomfort of saying no to others, sitting with the discomfort of when things don't go your way, sitting with the discomfort of having to set boundaries for yourself, sitting with the discomfort of having hits and misses. Those are the things that are going to lead to a more calm, content life with less burnout, because then it's going to become natural state of your lifestyle. This feels really grunty and habitual at the beginning, like when you're learning to drive a car. But over time, that just ends up being how you live your life, ends up being how you drive the car without even thinking. And that final point I want to come back to around those mindful moments is how you be joy, is how you have a more joyful life and less burnout. Like I said, is that it regulates your nervous system. You're more open to love, more open to joy. And part of that is learning to let go of this idea that I'm not worthy unless I'm achieving, doing all of those things that often comes from being told you're not good enough unless you're perfect, or you're not good enough if you just sit around. You are perfectly worthy just sitting on the couch watching Netflix as you are giving a keynote speech or whatever you are doing, okay? That worthiness piece is also there. So you can see how we can constantly pull and unwind this and bring this back. But I really hope that this has left you with a thought for your day or your week or even your month. I really want you to action on this ritual. What's something I can say no to so I can say yes to myself and my happiness? How can I be more present? Can I have a mindful lunch where I don't have my phone and I'm just out there? And how can I be okay with the discomfort, knowing that it's leading me to more joy? I really want to ask yourself how you can implement what you've learned today. All right, thank you again for being here, beautiful souls. I'm so happy that you're taking this time and being part of this movement where we're gonna make something magical happen here. I truly, truly believe like that is part of my mission. I'm going to empower women to have the tools to have a life that is free and feel empowered in themselves and be joyful and enjoy the kids, enjoy their time, choose relationships that are loving and kind and let go of the ones that aren't, letting go of toxic people, places, work environments. My hope is that you all work for yourselves and that you end up having thriving relationships full of love, full of sex, full of joy. That's what this movement's about. I want you to be the most joyful version of you. Because I don't know if some of you know this, but the tagline or our sort of motto at Savasana Collective is discover your potential. I want you to discover yours. All right, I will see you next week on the 4Q podcast. Bye for now.